Hi everyone, okay, back again. Just thank you to all the people that commented on the post that was shared, and thanks for sharing it as well. It was really appreciated, and it was, sort of like what's inspired me to do another one so soon. What I want to talk about today is I want to focus a little bit on diagnosis and labels, but not just like being diagnosed, like how we feel as service users when we're diagnosed, what we need from professionals. The reason why I decided to do this is because some of the teachings that I've done at the university as a lived experience patient is teaching actually qualified professionals about how they should deal with us when we're given a diagnosis. Okay, so we all know that when we get this diagnosis, well, from what I remember, it was given to me. I went initially thinking I had OCD and I got diagnosed with BPD. Now, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know it existed. The little information that I was given on it at the time was, to me, just a lot of long medical terminology that I couldn't even understand. I had no self-confidence, and it was pretty overwhelming and scary. So I didn't really have the confidence to ask them what it was about. I didn't want to know. I think sometimes I think it's easy to be ignorant towards it. But what I do know is when I left the office feeling sort of like, as soon as I said borderline personality disorder, I thought, oh my God, I can't even make it to schizophrenic. That's how useless I really am. I'm borderline everything, and that just enhanced everything about the diagnosis and made it worse. Now, I spoke to professionals about this since, and I've told them, that it's important that when we get diagnosed, that you're able to feed back to us about the illness by leaving the questions open. So we can't close you down. Hence, so for example, if they give us a question like, do you understand that? Yes, of course we're going to say yes. We're not going to, it's a stigma we've just been given as far as we're concerned, and it's so confusing and overwhelming, enhanced and everything. With having BPD, that enhances everything times 10 anyway. So it's quite daunting for us. Then when I taught the professionals, I said to them, what would have helped me personally is obviously the body language of the person, how they came across, whether I felt comfortable being there, being around that person. Also their patience with us, because if their body language is welcoming, and the tone of voice is welcoming, then we're more likely to open up to them. We're more likely to ask those questions. Well, what does that mean for me? And luckily the professionals, they have they're lucky because they've got textbook terminology, right? So they've got that knowledge, and they've also got the clinical skills. So therefore they're able to diagnose us in some long medical terms, which we don't understand, but they're also able to be qualified enough to be able to put that into our terminology so we can understand it too. And we shouldn't be afraid to say, if we don't understand, no question is a stupid question. If we don't understand, we should be able to say, we don't understand, and feel comfortable doing that. Of which then it's the professional body's place then to try a different way of explaining it to us so we do understand. And by knowing that we do understand, they could verbally ask us to mirror it back. So, just for example, if they said, this personality disorder, this started when you were such an age and this is why, and I say, so how do you know that? And then at the end of the session, they can say to us, maybe, for example, okay, so are you quite comfortable with what I've said to you today? If so, do you want to relate it back to me so I can let you know that, you've got it okay? And, there's just ways of doing stuff. But, it's very clinical when you go for any psychology intervention or any other intervention, really. But yeah, the professionals, they really need to look at these side of things. And it's about just being a person, just being a human being. Just make us feel comfortable, make us, we need to trust you. You change it, turning our lives upside down, and you can't just expect to do that and then make another appointment for us. And like I say, I left there thinking, oh my God, I can't even make it to schizophrenia. And my self-worth just went lower and lower and lower. So, for example, what I find was helpful, I was lucky enough, really. I did have a psychologist that I felt comfortable with. After a long period of time having one-to-ones with him, I did start to feel comfortable with him. He was very encouraging of what I did. I struggled talking to him, so I used to write poems, which I used as self-help therapy, and take them into him and say, okay, this is how I've been feeling this week. I don't want to talk about it, because when I talk about it, I feel it all over again. And nobody wants to feel them emotions over and over again, not by choice. So I wasn't going to put myself in that position. And he was really welcoming to that. I mean, hence why he helped me to, get my first book published. He was my inspiration. He was the one that believed in me. And I was lucky to have that, because there are not very many people like that about, especially professionals nowadays. Now, the other thing I was going to talk about is the actual label itself. I mean, with diagnosis, I personally think it's helpful. I mean, please leave comments or ideas or suggestions, or maybe you could leave something about your experiences, on here about how, what you've experienced with diagnosis or labelling. I think that it's also always helpful to invite the patient to ask any questions rather than just assume we will ask. Alternatively, they could offer us an explanation so we can leave feeling more positive and confident, and we don't have their advantage of having the textbook knowledge. Also, another thing I wanted to talk about was the labelling. Doctors still believe, psychologists, whoever, this labelling is the worst thing that happened, because once you get a label, that gives us stigma. And we don't want that, apparently, according to the professionals. Well, that's where I beg to differ, and that's where I do argue the facts, because when I got my label, I mean, my motto at the time was, how can I change what I don't understand? So I took it upon myself to, once I got my labels, I was able to research it. I did it via YouTube videos, because I learned a lot more that way rather than reading stuff. Everybody's got their own ways of doing it. And I learned about my disorder through other people's experiences on the internet. And I found my label helpful, because I was then be able to look at one specific area and be able to change what I felt I needed to change, or be able to look at videos and say, I recognise myself in that. Yeah, oh, okay, I see how this works. Okay, yeah, I do that as well. So that's the BPD, is it? And it was that kind of thing. But, doctors seem to think that we don't want the label. So I think the latest experience I had was with a friend, where all we could get was traits of. Right? Well, I'm sorry. I mean, she had traits of psychosis, traits of schizophrenia, traits of whatever. And she was given medication for psychosis, but she was not diagnosed with psychosis and was clearly not psychotic at the time. But they sort of like throw these traits out because they don't want to pin it to a label. I mean, my friend who I'm talking about, luckily she was the kind of person, she was very much like me, and we'd even discussed it on so many occasions as how helpful she would find this, which is why I went with her on one of her appointments to get that sorted. And because I've got the confidence now, when I've come through that side of things, I was able to confront the doctor with confidence and say, look, let's cut the crap, basically. Excuse my French. Let's cut the crap. Let's talk about what's really going on here. We don't need to know about traits of what is she suffering from. I gave my views of what I personally thought she was suffering from, and he agreed. And it was done as simple as that. And I explained to him, this is helpful for her. She can work with this now. Which means she can carry on the pathway instead of keep returning to you for more medication. So that's just an example there. Like I say, the label itself, it influences our identity, which can traumatise lives. So often in the middle of it all, we start to lose a sense of who we are, or where we are, or what we're meant to be. I mean, we have identity issues anyway, if it's personality disorder. And that becomes enhanced even more. So it's pretty confusing. In the face of these emotions, making major life changes can leave us feeling disempowered. with things that we take for granted. Simple things like being a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, or even a friend. All that changes. Relationships are eroded and disruptive through having no self-confidence and always believing, in my case, abandonment issues, that, you know, I'll abandon them before they abandon me. And that's where we will experience those feelings. That's where our world is falling apart around us. And it starts with those initial everyday emotions of dealing with everyday situations, which makes us disordered. And just to, I mean, I suppose a lot of people know this anyway, but because if you think about personality, well, we've all got personality traits, and we've, you know, like there's people on TV that present a persona. So they are who they are on TV, but behind closed doors, they're probably very different. And I guess that's what BPD people do a lot. I guess I do, because, you know, I go to work and I'm a different person, put on the suit and I become a different person. But to me, that's not a bad thing. That helps me to be able to do what I do work-wise. Then I can come home and be screaming and shouting like a mad woman, the crazy woman from down the street. So yeah, you know, my personality changes a hell of a lot there. But I think what I can say is, regards to BPD, don't get me wrong, I was in services for a lot of years, 9 to 12 years, something like that. And 2016 was my last law, EMDR. And to be honest with you, we'll talk about that on another blog, but that was really amazing. That's what changed my life around. But what made me start doing these videos now is that although I knew I wasn't cured and I still had triggers, but I was managing them better. I was given the tools to manage them, and I'd processed traumas from childhood through my therapy. And my life was actually looking like I had one for a change, you know. I was managing, I was living. The reason why I started doing these is because only recently, although I've got everything that I've ever wanted, right now I became really, really poorly again. I don't know why that's happened. I can't explain it, which is something that I don't deal with very well. I need everything explained to me. I need to understand everything. And I will keep asking, and I will keep going until I find the answers. Unfortunately, yeah, I am being referred back into services. Fortunate for me, I'm sort of like quite genned up on the stuff, so I've sort of like, you know, said to them, this is what I think would be helpful for me, because I know what I know me, I know how I work. And, you know, luckily they took that on board, and they did say, okay, well, you know, we'll look at giving you that therapy again. But what I find is, one situation that I just want to throw out there, I mean, it's a bit random, but then again, I'm random anyway, is that how the worst question in the world for me when I have been to see any kind of mental health professional is, what is it you would like us to do for you? Oh my God, how bad is that? Right, personality disorder or not, if you go to the doctors and you're ill and they say, what do you want us to do for you? How the hell's that going to make you feel? At the end of the day, you're going there with that little bit of hope that's left inside of you, hoping and praying that that one person that's qualified all them years to be able to help you. So why the hell would they ask us? You know, I mean, I never thought that. If I'd have known I could have solved it myself, then I wouldn't have been there in the first place, would I? You know, but I found that quite a lot as well throughout. And I think the more genned up I became, the more better I was managing my triggers, the more normal as such, the more I functioned better, the more I had to sort of like lead the professionals into what I wanted and what I needed. And that's like really sad, really, because, you know, yeah, I do function, and yeah, things have got better, now they've got worse, and they're always going to be like that. I've adapted to that fact. But I want people to know out there, people that haven't suffered with mental health, that, you know, just because we have good days, just because I present myself okay and I come across and I work and I'm in a work environment, doesn't mean that I'm cured. It doesn't mean that the thoughts that haunted me for years, that randomly go through my head, the flashbacks, the triggers, doesn't mean that they're not happening. They're always happening in the background. But like I say, somehow I learned to manage with that. I mean, I learned to manage them to the point where I'm so low, like recently, where the trigger came from nowhere and I wasn't able to stop it in the moment. I was scared. I was hopeless. I was scared of myself. That's the sad thing. I was scared of what I was capable of doing at that moment in time because I wasn't ready for it. After 2 years, I was not ready for that. So it just goes to show you, you know, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You can make something yourself. You can have a better life. You can have a better quality of life. And there's lots of different ways to do that, which hopefully as we go along, especially if people ask me questions or advice, I can, you know, go into it with them or whatever. And hopefully, you know, but I will always be disordered. And can I just say that how they diagnose this disorder with personality disorder, because we've all got traits of paranoia. We all get paranoid. I mean, I've got paranoid personality disorder. So we all get paranoid. So why are they disordered? Why aren't they labelled? Because it becomes a label when it affects your lifestyle, your everyday living in such a way that it's traumatic, where you seclude yourself from society and hide away from it, or where you act on your impulses and maybe get arrested, take drugs, alcohol, promiscuity, whatever that may be, whatever, everybody's different, like I said. You know, so that is when it becomes a disorder, when our personalities become a disorder. But also, I want to end on one thing that's positive, and that was, you know, the professional that I had at the time said to me, you know, you're probably sitting there feeling really hopeless that, you know, how the hell do you change your personality? You know, it is part of your DNA. How do you do that? And I said that to him, and he said, well, if you can imagine what you was like at 16, which I did, and to what you are now. And I said, well, yeah, I was very bubbly, I was very outgoing and fun to be around when I was 16. Now I'm quite the opposite. He said, okay, so therefore I had already changed my personality without even knowing it. And you know what? He was right. So there is ways of changing your personality, and it's all about looking through, not looking at the black and white areas, and that's all there is. It's trying to find the grey scale in the middle. And it's possible. It can happen. And to stop and think before you act, you know. Like I say, there's going to be lots of other blogs going on. There's so much that I've got, like, taken from teachings as well that professionals have found helpful. So obviously your views as well, if you want to like and share and leave a message or anything, if you're not comfortable with speaking actually on the actual, you know, the actual share, then feel free to inbox me, message me, and that's fine, you know. And please try and share this with as many people as you can, because the more we can reach out there, the better things are going to get. You know, I want people to know that there is a life after mental health. Okay, thanks all for watching again. Hope you found it interesting. Please do share it with your friends, family, whoever. And I'll speak to you soon. Right, thank you, bye.